Welcome to Toffee TV. It is your comments for Manchester United 4, Everton 0. Don't forget, if you haven't subscribed, make sure you do that. If you want to know when there's a video coming out, make sure to check the bell for alerts. And if you want extra videos, join us on Patreon. Let's get straight in. These are the comments you've left on the videos that we did immediately after the Man United game. Alex 1976 says, I agree with everything. We need pace in the wings. All this money spent on midfield players with the same characteristics, ridiculous. I prefer that we lost 4-0 and not 1-0 because something has to be done here. I'm not at all confident that we can win 3 out of our next 4 games. To be fair, yeah, Alex, I completely agree. My biggest gripe with it all is that I wanted to see how these players would fit together before I give, any opinion. When we were buying players, I thought there was a plan. Unfortunately, I don't know what that plan is now. And that's the biggest problem for me. I just don't know what that plan is. It may take time. Maybe other players coming in would have added to it. But you're absolutely right. The lack of pace and players being very similar to each other has made us very, very one-dimensional. Stephen Penton says the difference will be mentality. Big teams go into games knowing they're going to score goals, knowing they're going to win. When they have an off day, it soon comes back to the next game, that the mentality to win. We are going into every game with the mentality that we're going to compete, or we have to try and compete. When we have a bad result, it's followed by another game. We will try and compete, and it's the same. I want in the next few games solid proof there's real productivity in this side. Otherwise, hate to say it, we could be in real trouble this season. Yeah, I mean, that's been a big problem. We've just played Chelsea, Tottenham, Atalanta and Man United, and it didn't feel like in those games that we thought we could win the game, and that's been the big problem. And when we've gone a goal behind, it felt like that was it, the game was over. The next 4 games are crucial. The next 4 games for me are more important than the 4 games just gone. They are games we should be winning. People can talk about what we spent, but if you spend the money that we've spent, you expect to win the next 4 games. Okay, it's going to take time to compete with the teams we've just played, but I expect to beat the teams, or you would expect to, with the team we had last year with the extra money, regardless of Lukaku or not. They're going to be tough, but we should be winning them, and it's going in with the mentality that we will win them. That's the real test. Terminator Rand says, I think Balassi is. But when Balassi is back, it'll be a breath of fresh air. Honestly, I know he's inconsistent, but we do actually miss Deulofeu a bit. He had a bit of pace and was positive on the ball. Don't know why we don't give Lennon a go. Have a bit of width in the side instead of everyone just standing right next to each other, spread out. I absolutely agree with you. Balassi coming back, if he comes back like he was with that pace, that will give us something completely different that we didn't have, that we don't have at the moment. And you're right about Deulofeu. He had pace. He was positive on the ball. The only problem was he was inconsistent, and he was too inconsistent for the manager, and also his work rate wasn't enough for the manager. But Balassi and Seamus Coleman, if they come back, near what they were when they went out the side, that I think the side will be massively transformed by just having that bit of pace. Playing, we could play 3 at the back, and Seamus Coleman played right wing back, and I don't know, could Balassi play left wing back? I know that's not maybe his natural side, but could he play left wing back? Could we convert him into that position? You look what Chelsea have done with someone like Moses. Could Balassi do something like that? Could that fix all our problems in one go if those 2 players came? I know it's a big if, because it's a big if whether they'll come back with the way they left the side. But could that solve some of the problems? 2 really big problems, I think. Mr. YouTuber 001 says substitutions baffled me, but a big improvement on Atalanta midweek. Still small comfort. A win in the League Cup on Wednesday should steady things. Jose Mourinho's programme notes seem to get to Ronald Koeman today. You've spent 150 million, Ronnie, for fuck's sake. It was a bit of an improvement, but the problem is we can't put the ball in the back of the net. And if we can't put the ball in the back of the net, it won't matter how well we play. That's the problem. If you're not creating chances, it doesn't matter how many times you pass the ball sideways. If you're not making chances and taking chances, then it's not good enough. But we were better As for the programme notes, I think Koeman shouldn't be getting involved in things like that. He's distracting himself, and maybe that's why he did it, from the main problems. Henry the Cat says Koeman can go and take Williams and Jag with him. Maybe not quite yet. Give it a bit more time. Williams, I don't think Williams should be in the side. And if him and Jags are not in the side, then we're scratching our heads. Then you would have to play Holgate, which maybe wouldn't be the worst thing. I think the problem when you see it yesterday, when you play Williams and Jagielka, they don't want to leave the 18-yard box. And that means that we get stuck in our own half like we did for the first 10 minutes yesterday, and we invite pressure on. So I think that has to change. Recent 8S says, I wasn't looking for us to bring in world-class players over the summer for the simple fact we couldn't attract them even if we wanted to. But we could all see defensively we need new legs, and we lost our only goal scorer. So I expected us to at least balance the side with those new additions. Sadly, nowhere near enough was done there. Instead, we buy a shitload of midfielders who get schooled by young Davis. This lad is what I wish we had more of around the pitch. It's painful watching us of late. Luckily, it can only get better because it doesn't get much worse. Well, it could get worse. If we were to get knocked out by Sunderland, it would be worse. I think when we were buying those players in the summer, I said this previously, you felt like there was a plan. You felt like, oh, we've bought this player, then we're on to the next, and we're going to buy a striker, and we're going to buy, and the worst thing is it never materialised, and you feel like we never did it in the right. We had to buy those players. You know, anyone who says we didn't have to buy those players, I think is stupid. We needed players in the squad. We had to buy all the players though. We had to get a centre forward, and we had to get a left-sided centre back, and we possibly had to get a left back as well, and we didn't get them. And that's showing now. And players can age very quickly, and I think that's where the manager or whoever, Steve Walsh, whoever got it wrong in the summer. They had to buy all the players, not just some of the players. Wayne Harrison says Kenny, Lookman, Dahl should be starting now. Well, Dahl can't because he's not with us. If only we hadn't loaned out our best player in pre-season. We got no fucking goal scorers in midfield, let alone up front. Koeman and Walsh, dumb with them pair. Brought in 4 number 10s and neither of them can lay a glove on Barkley. Kenny, I think, should be playing. Lookman, I think, should be involved more. Dahl, I think, does need a year playing for someone like Nottingham Forest, getting to learn football. He is a number 10, another number 10, remember, or certainly plays like a number 10. It's hard to disagree with what you're saying. It really is. But the Barkley thing, I think we've reiterated lots of times on this show that we like Barkley. We've always championed Barkley on this show, but it was up to him, or it's certainly with him, to sign a contract. Now, whether he's fell out with the manager, it seems so. What are those reasons? We don't know. So that none of them have seemed to have the characteristics of what Barkley has, and a lot of them don't seem to have any kind of consistency that Barkley had. But it's still quite early. But ultimately, Barkley chose not to sign a contract, so we won't know the reasons. Maybe if we knew the reasons, then we could say, well, he's right not to sign his contract. But we don't know those reasons, so it's hard to make an informed, opinion on that. Brian Markey says, I know people were saying it wasn't a 4-0 game, but the scoreline is 4-0, so it was a 4-0 game. Yeah. Man United got lucky with the first goal. Valencia shinned it into the top corner. After that, I thought we were a better team and should have scored at least twice. Williams fucked up again for the second goal. The players' heads dropped and we collapsed. I'm not asked what Lukaku's celebrating. He's not our player, so he gives a fuck. I'm still optimistic. We have played 4 of the top 6 and have a good run of games now. We have played 4 of the top 6. So it has been a very tough start. I agree completely with Lukaku, and would have been a 4-0 game. Yeah, I think we should have scored, and as I've said, that's the problem. If we're not scoring goals, we can't beat anybody. Some games you won't play well and you'll score and you'll get through, but we're not scoring goals whether we're playing poorly or well. And that's the biggest problem. Until we start scoring goals, we're not going to beat teams, obviously. So we need to address that, and we need to come up with a way of scoring goals. That for me means changes all over the pitch, not just up front. I think we need to play 3. I think Holgate needs to be in the 3. I think John Jones Kenny needs to be right wing back. I think that's, we've got to get our whole team up the pitch, and that's how we'll score goals. Callum96 says it's a bad run of form, but those saying Koeman out, who's going to replace him? The majority of our squad are his signings, and he's obviously has a long-term plan he's working on. Yes, it's a shit run of form, but it boils down to our failure to buy a striker to replace Lukaku. It's as simple as that. No excuses going forward. Now the run of games has ended. We need to get some wins and start scoring more goals. Yeah, and as you know, I think it's the next 4 games are more important than the last 4 games. And Koeman has to have pressure on him. For me, he has to win 3 of the next 4 games. He has to. And that has to be pressure on him. And I think he knows there's pressure on him. And I think there has to be. We can't be. Listen, I'm not saying sack him if we don't win 3 of the next 4 games. What I'm saying is he has to know that there's pressure on his job. And by spending all that money, pressure follows. Otherwise, you know, what's the point? But we have to start scoring goals. It's as simple as that. Tank C says, I expect nothing else at the moment. Starting to get the same feeling I had when Martinez was over us. In seasons gone, it would be so mad with a loss that none of my family could come into the same room as me. Now I don't. No, because I have lost faith with the manager and the setup. Yeah, it just feels like at the moment, doesn't it? Like, oh, we've lost again. And you're just feeling it. It's mad when you're in a good run of form. You absolutely can't even think about losing, and if you do lose 1 game, it's like the end of the world. But now when you lose games, you're just like, lost another game. It's horrible. I mean, that's weird. That's so much worse. But you are just like, Josh Online says, if it all goes pear-shaped in the next 5 or so games, would you like to see the old Dortmund manager's replacement for Koeman? Tuchel, Thomas Tuchel. I'm not being funny, right? But if someone offered me Thomas Tuchel right now, I'd have to take him. It's like when Liverpool had Brendan Rodgers, who wasn't the worst manager in the world, but as soon as Jurgen Klopp came available, it was like, we've got to have him. Tuchel is a great manager, and if he became available and said, knocked on our door and went, listen, I know you've got a manager, but I want to be Everton's manager, then you'd just be like, see you, Ron, we're taking Tuchel. That's just the way it is. Listen, that's just the way it is. I was going to make a euphemism about supermodels and your missus then, but I won't. I'll leave that. That person's name says some good points made by Pep, but in my honest opinion, we can't defend by having no centre-backs pushed up to the halfway line because it will send the ball over the top of the defence. We have no pace to catch the likes of Ashley Douglas. That was my point. My point was we have to have pace in the back, in the defence, so we can push up, so that if teams play the ball over the top, we can catch them. That was my point. You're arguing against the very point I made, which that is the point. If you have players like Williams, they will never leave the 18-yard box, which allows the opposition to come on and camp in your half. But of course, Ashley Williams can't defend on the halfway line, and neither would I want him, and that's why Ashley Williams didn't have a bad game against Man United, but his game is sitting on the 18-yard box and defending. Remember last year at Old Trafford when we tried that and we ended up not winning the game for the same reason, because we brought bleeding Pennington on to try and do the same thing. We tried to defend on the 18-yard box. Good sides will camp in your half and they will eventually score. The way to counter that is by getting out your half, but you can only do that if you have pace at the back. You are right. And that's what I was saying. Get some pace in the back, which is Holgate, and start playing a higher line so that when the ball goes over the top, you can catch them. And there you go. They were your comments. Thank you very much as ever for leaving your comments after our videos. We do really appreciate it. Don't forget, subscribe if you haven't already. Click the little bell for alerts if you want to immediately know when we're doing videos. And if you like our videos and you want more, join us on Patreon. Thanks for watching Toffee TV. I'll see you later.